Hello, it is a pleasure to be here today at Frontend Nation talking to you about vibe coding with Nuxt, which is actually not something I've given a talk on before, so fingers crossed. My name is Daniel Rowe. I'm a full-time open source maintainer, which I think is one of the greatest jobs in the world. I'm sponsored by companies and individuals, and I maintain some projects that I care about. Things like Nuxt, Nitro, Magic Regex, Fontaine, and some other projects too. You can find links to them on my website, which is also a place you can find out how to contact me on social media. If any questions come up as a result of today's talk, or there's something else I can help you with, please don't hesitate to get in contact. I'm on most social networks, pretty much everything except Twitter, but you should be able to get in contact with me any way you like. And yeah, I'd love to help if there's something I can do. I'm standing here, but without my cat in front of me today. She is snoozing downstairs. And yes, this is my view, and you're getting the other direction. I live in Edinburgh in Scotland, and at the moment it is a lovely day. And that's not always something you can take for granted. But the changeability also means if it's not yet a nice day, you never know what is going to happen in the rest of the day. And yes, I want to talk a little bit about vibe coding with Nuxt, but I should say, what is Nuxt? Nuxt is a framework built on Vue and Nitro. It was created back in 2016. I think it was released one day after Next.js, which is a similar framework for React. And the aim is that it's progressive. So it should be there with you as you start out, building maybe a small site. And it should make it really easy to get started. But it should also go with you every step of the way. So as you need to make things more complex, as you need to configure things, as you discover your own best practices and coding patterns, you should be able to fully customize it. And so it's used by big enterprises and agencies and brands, as well as small ones. And that flexibility is very important to me. Originally, it was created by Sebastian and Alexander Chopin. Just to be clear, not by me. I joined later on, about the time that we started rewriting it entirely for version 3. In fact, I'm not sure there's a single line of code that still remains the same between 2 and 3. And we rewrote Nuxt entirely. It was a huge, ambitious rewrite. And as part of that, we spun out other packages like Nitro, which is now a full server framework on its own and powers meta frameworks like Analog, Solid Start, Handstack Start, and more. As well as plenty of other tools in the UnJS ecosystem on GitHub. Feel free to check them out. And we're in the run-up now to version 4, which is a pretty exciting release. Yeah, feel free to find out more about that later on. But enough about Nuxt in general. What about vibe coding? So vibe coding is a term that was created about 3 months ago in a tweet by Andrej Karpathy. And he basically used it to describe the experience of using an LLM, a large language model, to create code without really looking at the code that was created. So he described the process of just talking, not even editing it at all, just prompting, just coming back with requests. It's far too early for a term like this to have a fixed meaning, but this is how it started. And I think people now are not using it to mean this pure vibes approach, but there is an idea of somehow stepping back a little bit from the code that you're producing with an LLM. And I think it raises a question, which is a very interesting one, which is how do you relate to large language models? And it's worth saying that it is helpful, I think, to keep on thinking about this as a question about large language models rather than AI, which is very imprecise, or even LLMs, which can lead us to forget that what we're talking about is very good completion engines that are able to complete the next token. And why do I say that? I say that because there are certainly people who are treating large language models like authorities. That is something, of course, that we can do. It's, I think, extremely dangerous. I'm sure that no one here would treat an LLM like an authority. In general, there are disturbing stories of people who have had their own delusions amplified, for example, and have allowed LLMs to convince them that they were in fact God or had superpowers, or that they should hurt themselves or other people. Maybe that's a bit extreme, but I think we can also treat LLM answers as authorities in other areas. Particularly, it's easy if we don't have expertise in a field. But I think it's just really helpful to remember that they are not authorities in anything that they are talking about. You can also think of them as perhaps a colleague. This is an approach that is pioneered by tools like Devon. It's by no means the only one. The idea that you can have another person on your team, a sales agent, an accountant, who knows, maybe a VC funder, something that definitely an interview. You probably have experienced AI interviews if you've been going for a coding job. And that's one approach. I think my own personal favorite is viewing them as tools. So things that amplify and augment your own power and ability. So you have a vision, you're looking to execute it, you need help. It's one of the things that I really love the term copilot for. Copilot is great because it implies you're flying somewhere, but occasionally you hand over control, but you never lose that responsibility. You remain in charge, but you have someone who's able to augment you and help you. That I think is a phenomenal approach to thinking about tools like this. But vibe coding, I think, the concept of it, raises another question, not what is the LLM, but who are you? How do you think of yourself? And vibe coding asks you or suggests that you can step into the position not of engineer or coder, but into the position of user, right? Someone who is actually experiencing the effort, the result of the LLM. The LLM is the creator and the product owner for a moment anyway, and you're the user who can prompt and ask and say, this isn't quite right, this isn't what I want, this isn't the feel, this isn't the functionality. And I think this is, quite apart from use with LLMs, a very, very helpful exercise for engineers to get into, because it's easy for us to code and produce something that someone else is asking us to produce with requirements that someone else gives us. Very helpful, I think, for us to step into that gap and become the one asking, to become the product owner or the user who's actually desiring things from the product. But enough of that. I think it's time to dive in and actually see what vibe coding with Nuxt might be like. So if we get going to start with, and I'm just going to fire up a terminal. I think I might need to unfull screen myself. Okay, if I fire up a terminal here, we're going to create a new project. Now, I think one of the most helpful things just to start with is to say, if you're going to do some vibe coding with LLMs, start with a template, your own best practice template, the foundation that you're going to want to use. And so I'm just going to clone my personal site template into this new folder, crossword. And I'm going to open that up. Oh, I'm going to copy across. I have some minimal settings that I'm going to copy into there that just makes it a little bit more easy in the eyes. And let's open that up into our editor. Now here we go. We have a project. And this is my basic config. I'm going to reinitialize it so we can easily track the changes that are made. And I'm going to stick all of that in as our initial commit. And I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to open up my my Copilot instructions file because we'll use the Copilot agent for this particular example, or you can use others like cursor. And let's just say that something like this is incredibly helpful for setting best practices and providing context for a project that you're building. So we're going to add a few things here. We're going to ask it to create and update a progress.md file to track the overall progress of the project and document the architecture decisions made. Okay, so we're going to stick that up at the top. There are some other tools that you might want to have. I want to just highlight that accessibility is absolutely something you should have in the instructions. It's something that it doesn't guarantee that you have great accessibility just because you instruct, but if you don't instruct it, you'll probably miss it out. Some of this I think I might drop just for this example. I actually have a minimal approach to comments when it comes to LLMs. They can go overboard with them. And okay, I'm going to suggest that functions get extracted out. And I think we might also want to document the fact this is a Nuxt 4 directory structure. And I think I should probably tell the LLM that. So this project uses Nuxt version 4 directory structure, meaning that app is the source folder and composables, plugins, pages, and so on live inside it. We could also document, let's see, anything else we need to document? I think you might have a design pattern. So for this, we'll use use Tailwind CSS for styling, version 4 for styling. That seems reasonable. Okay, and I think we also want to, anything else we want to say here? Oh, with tools like this, there are other options. There are other tools available to you. So in particular, there's a Nuxt MCP server, which you might want to add to your agent. So in this case, we have a URL. If you go back to VS Code, you can add it in just by saying add server, and you type it in like this, press enter. We're going to call it Nuxt, and we're going to make it available in this workspace. And there we go. We have our Nuxt MCP server. You can see it's running. There are two tools available that have been discovered, so that's good to know. Okay, let's craft our prompt. So you'll want to open up your Copilot chat interface, select agent mode. If that's not enabled for you, just open the settings and confirm that agent mode is enabled. Should be straightforward. And let's craft a prompt. So I want to build something. The other day I was in a restaurant and I wanted to do the crossword. And I had a photo of the crossword, but I didn't actually have any way of playing it. There's my crossword. And I think it would be a nice idea to be able to scan a crossword and actually see it in a web app. So I am building a web app called Crossword. I want to be able to upload a file, recognize any crossword grid in the photo, and create a grid in the web app that displays the pattern from the crossword. I want to be able to type in each box, enter letters in each box so I can complete the crossword in the app. It should be built to be responsive, work well on mobile phones. Okay, that's probably enough of a prompt to start with. You might find if you're doing vibe coding that you try a couple of times. So write a prompt, see how well it works. If it works well, use that, otherwise not. I'm going to use Claude Sonnet 4 because why not? It's just been released and let's give it a go. Okay, it's going to explore the structure and create a plan. check what dependencies we have installed. Another great reason for starting with a project that already exists, a template, because in fact, you give a lot of hints and context simply by what you make available. The other thing actually, which I should have done, is just actually run the Nuxt dev server, because it's not even types as the LLM makes progress, it's going to start to pull in information, for example, on whether things are, whether types are resolved. And the Nuxt dev server is going to keep the types up to date with the latest progress from the LLM. Now it's going to add a couple of things. It's going to add Tailwind CSS Vite. That's great. It means it knows a little bit about the new Tailwind version 4. Unfortunately, it's invented a package and it's pulling in an OCR package and a computer vision model. Interesting. We'll let it go ahead and do that. Now, when you give permission to the Copilot agent mode, it actually creates a terminal. And yes, that doesn't exist. So let's see, is it going to be able to learn? Yes and no. It's pulling in now Nuxt Tailwind CSS, which is version 3. That's not going to help in this instance, but it's a little bit further. Okay, and we need to approve some builds. So it's pulled up this, and it's aware, and it wants to select all. And now hopefully it's going to want to say yes. You can give it permission to do these things automatically. I'm not yet brave enough to let a large language model execute commands on my computer, but your mileage might vary. Cool, it's creating app types crossword. Oops, I don't want to close it. That's great. It knows that this app folder exists and it's creating things within it, which is good. Later on, I might refactor this to use a shared folder for the types, but this is certainly okay. Now it looks like it's going ahead to create a crossword page. One thing you can do if you want to peek on the progress is if you have this progress.md, you can have a look at what it's planning. So here we have going to have HTML5 with drag and drop support for the upload. Seems good. OCR, I like it. Image processing, OpenCV. And you can, by the way, I would never recommend really just sitting and watching. This is really useful if you have this going on in another tab. It's probably not really vibe coding if you're just sort of sitting there watching. Typically, it's helpful to be doing something yourself, maybe doing a bit of research. What is OpenCV? How does it work? Might read the docs, because you're going to need to evaluate this code at some point and decide whether or not this is, in fact, good. You're going to need to sign your own name to it. But for the vibe coding piece, I guess we're placing ourselves in the position of a user. We're not asking those difficult questions, but at some point you will need to swap mentality and role over. So now instead of just being a user, constantly asking for features, you're going to become a senior developer needing to review the output of this LLM and make sure that you don't ship something insecure, inaccessible, or just pour into production. Okay, lots of stuff is happening. It's good that we've had, again, the dev server running in the background. It's been doing some HMR. I'm a bit terrified to see what happens if I go to this URL, but we can always see. Yeah, this is quite common. So if you're using Copilot, in order to stop there from being type errors, things don't save just when they're created. So we have, at this point, a file. Let's see, a file which is photo upload. Now, photo upload is currently being worked on. So it's complete. It's got all these features and functions, but it's not been saved to disk yet. So you'll see this error saying that it has to have some content. There's nothing in it right now. So that's something you can ignore. You can just wait. Again, it's probably not best practice just to sit here and see what's happening, but I'm curious and nosy and I can't resist. So you can manually save it if you really, really want, but I suspect it won't work even so, because it probably requires some other files that need to be created too. Cool. Looks like lots of stuff is happening. We have detection results where you can actually review it and make adjustments. There's the photo upload piece, which obviously we need. There's a processing indicator, so maybe showing the steps, the progress. Yeah, a step indicator. And now it's creating a crossword grid component. This is probably going to be the most difficult one because it's not a straightforward thing actually to create a crossword grid for a model, I would think. It's a very visual thing. We'll see how well it gets on with it. Okay, we notice that we are getting this prompt. The problem has been worked on for a bit. I'm happy with the direction it's going in. I could review the progress and see where we're going. So, well, this hasn't yet been updated since we started, but I'm still happy with it. And I don't think it's got lost in a loop. So I'm going to continue. Okay. Look at this. This is great. Okay, so we have our app. We have a upload crossword photo. It has beautiful little hover state. You can choose a file. We could probably pick this crossword. I have no idea what will happen if I select it. Okay, I see a preview. I have a button to process the image. Oh, HMR has just happened. It saved something. What happens if I process it? Well, the step count is working nicely. I love the fact that it's going up. Now, I suspect that we have got a component that's not displaying here. Yeah, crossword grid isn't displaying. Why is that? I think it might be because it's not saved yet, but not quite sure. This is the problem with editing something as it's being built. Oh no, I've been rate limited. Well. What are we going to do with that? One thing you might be able to do is pick a different model and carry on, because sometimes rate limits do vary by model. See where we're getting on. I'll open the crossword grid and see what we can do. Let's save that. And we have two V4s. So it may be that we can do something about that. There we go. That's actually very interesting. This is totally wrong because we do need a row and we need a cell. And this is being built as a grid, which actually means there are no rows and cells. We should just have a flat list of them. So this should probably be something like a flat map of grid cells. It depends exactly how the cells are created. Let's see if we can carry on. I often, by the way, when building, do add things into the stage changes, just so you can have a clear idea of what's happening. The agent mode also has a diff here, so that you can see what's changing from file to file, from change to change. But I prefer a little bit more hand-holding, and I want to make sure that I don't lose anything good. Although that is a little bit against the spirit of vibe coding, I think. You probably just meant to interact with it via instructions. Now we've just actually switched model, which is worth knowing that that when you are doing something like this, the context is something separate from the model. These LLMs are stateless. It's not like it actually remembers your interactions. So if you are switching from one model to another, all that context, all those interactions, everything goes from one to the other. And so you are actually able just to move from one thing to another. And you might find that you need to do that. For example, if you want to do something in particular that you feel one model might be better at than the other. Okay. We have missing end tag. Is that real? Maybe, maybe not. If we reload this, yeah, we're still getting something. There's a missing template end tag. You might be able to find it by having a look for... Yeah, we need to have a, a template at some point. Right after the div, it looks like, and then there's 2 more divs on the outside, so probably about there. I'm not actually editing it, you'll notice. So one of the worst things to do is inject yourself into the process. We know that there's this mistake, we know how to fix it, but actually we have to step back because it's going to spot that there's an error and try and fix it itself. And if we fix it ourselves, then it will be sort of tracked in the context, this incorrect value. And you'll find that even when you fix something, it actually ends up coming back with something that's incorrect later down the line because you've never corrected it in the set of prompts. Having said that, it's definitely something you need to do before shipping to production. And I think there are a number of issues here. So you'll see, for example, that there's an isMobile computed, which is to do with the type of window. That's going to give all kinds of problems because 1, that's not reactive, so it's not appropriate for a computed. 2, it's not going to work on server-side rendering. And there are maybe some other issues there too. You might have some kind of hydration error. This is going to evaluate a false on the server for whatever. In general, I think it's best to use CSS for this kind of thing. So rather than using JavaScript to set values based on whether you are in a small window or not, you're going to want to use CSS. I would also say that sometimes people use tests like this to determine whether or not to load a mobile feature set, which is almost always wrong. You typically, if you're wanting to detect whether it is on a mobile device and has a mobile capability, you're not going to want to do this by checking the window width, which could equally be true on a desktop computer. It's creating the crossword specification to test some of the utils that we've created. I think this is an incredibly useful thing to prompt and require as part of this, because it means that if you're encountering issues, you can very easily debug them by examining the tests rather than having to deal with the entire context of the app. And it's something that you can easily prompt and provide as you seek to create better behavior. So we might want to do stuff like, okay, the crossword grid or the grid statistics. Like these are things that you might be able to handle on your own and also understand from your point of view when you're coming to review the PR. Think how helpful that is when you have tests to assert the kind of behavior you're expecting from utilities. Always useful when reviewing someone else's PR, and even more so if you're reviewing an LLM-generated PR. Okay, well, we have some core setup updates. The progress has been updated. We clearly see that there is more stuff coming that hasn't been done yet. So the photo upload feature, the image processing, and then we have interactive grid, process and testing, and so on. Lots more to do, probably more time than we have time for in this talk, at least live. But I think it's already a very optimistic start. And even if we have a missing end tag, I think, let me just quickly see if I can add in that missing end tag so we get a view of what it's going to do. All right. Not quite. We have a div, span input. Okay, it's after this one, I think. Let's try that. Now we have an extra div. Oops. Problematic. There is something up here that should probably be a div. After this one, template. Drop that. I think that's working. We still have this issue with the cell. To be honest, I should probably prompt it at this point. And I'm directly going to tell it to fix that file. we can see what's going to happen in the background. Copilot's going to run the dev server, I guess. We already have it running. It doesn't know about that. And it looks at the closing tag issue, which it's presumably going to get. It's updated something. There's also another issue with v4, but I think that might have also been fixed at the same time. Let's see if that's going to render. We maybe need to save it. Let's try that one more time. This is coming from detection results. We have the same issue. We have a duplicate attribute in detection results. Okay, so we don't have time fully to complete this today, but we do have an image. We do have a view of our project. We can pick in our crossword image. We can click a process image button. We have a beautiful little point of view. We even have a detected grid pattern, which is incorrect, but I love the fact that it's visual. We have the opportunity to resize the grid, make adjustments, try again. If we like it, we can continue. And now we have an interactive crossword grid, which we can actually fill numbers in. Now, I think that's pretty phenomenal for something like 20 minutes of work. It's definitely something where we would want to change it, improve it, fix it. Obviously, we'd want to just confirm it works on mobile. It's not great there, but that might just be to do with the size of the grid. Anyway, there's a lot of work to continue, but I do think vibe coding with Nuxt can be a helpful tool, maybe to put you in the position of a user, get an opportunity to explore technologies you don't yet know, like computer vision in this case, or maybe the OCR functionality that's going to come soon in the next phase of the build. If you want to spend any more time looking into Nuxt, well, you can check out the docs on nuxt.com. You can use this QR code to follow people on Blue Sky, a pack of Nuxt ecosystem and module maintainers. And if it would be helpful at all, feel free to book a 10-minute call with me at ro.dev/chat. I'd be really happy to do that if there's something I can do to help you get involved in open source or answer some other question you might have. Thank you for having me. It has been a real pleasure.